What's up, guys? VCU 78, St. Louis 62 in the Siegel Center tonight. I'm coming at you live from the media table over here at midcourt with my dear friend, Michael Phillips.
What's up?
Who's powering away at his coverage for the Richmonder right now. What you writing about?
I think
Give the people a sneak peek.
Yeah, I think Jack Clark's finally becoming the player they thought he'd be when he came in. I think he settled into his role nicely. Big picture, this team can beat anybody. The team that played here tonight is the favorites to win the A10, will be the favorites to win the A10, and maybe has to win the A10 to get a tourney bid, unfortunately.
I think so, given how the complexion of the league has shaken out. But probably their best basketball of the season to this point tonight.
Here you go. There you go.
Plays his best game of the season to knock off first place St. Louis. Precisely.
There you go.
And I think the best atmosphere, too, that we've had in the Siegel Center this season, there was some pent-up excitement, right? Hadn't played a true home game since the December 22nd win over William & Mary. And because you had the Fordham last week with no fans here. And so I think that there was a state of catharsis a little bit in this arena tonight, and especially when Brandon Jennings had that steal in the backcourt, the three from the left wing late in or midway through that second half. That was part of a 14-2 run. That was when VCU separated in this game. Because St. Louis hung around, right? VCU led for 38-35 and was up 47-42 at halftime, but we're not to that point. The Rams weren't able to create a whole lot of separation because Avila and Swope were both fantastic. They finished with 18 apiece tonight. And Robbie Avila got to the free throw line at a consistent clip in that first half, and Swope hit threes. And those are the two things that kept St. Louis in this game. But they have a short rotation, right? Jimerson ended up with 11 points tonight, played all 40 minutes. That dude's conditioning is amazing to run with so much off-ball action that they run for him and to be able to play a full 40. But he finished 4 of 12 from the field, 2 of 10 from 3. VCU really limited his outside, his clean looks on the outside well. And 19 St. Louis turnovers leading to 27 VCU points. I think that was a huge story. This team locked down defensively in the second half. SLU only scored 20 points. One of their best halves of the season in what's probably their best game of the season to this point. And now you're the front runners in the A10, right? As was expected at the beginning of the season. Obviously, I think Dayton held that spot for quite a while after the impressive non-conference that they have. And then VCU lost to Bonaventure early on in conference play. But then Bonaventure dropped a weird game against LaSalle the other day, and Dayton, who knows what in the world is going on with them after losses to George Washington and UMass. And so it was all for the taking here tonight, right? It was St. Louis 3-0 in conference play coming into this arena. VCU had the chance to become the hunted in the A10, and they absolutely did it tonight with a 16-point margin that's going to help a lot in the net. They'll be the highest team in the net in the A10, I believe, after this game. Them and St. Bonaventure and Dayton were all in the 60s. And so VCU certainly will hold the top spot in the rankings. And it looks like the metrics still think that this VCU team has an unrealized ceiling and can play consistently the way that they did tonight, because coming into this game, I think they were plus 150 to win the A10. And the next closest team in the conference was Dayton at like plus 320. And the line for this game, I was shocked that the line for this game was as drastic as it was. It was VCU -9, then I think got bet up to -10.5 leading up to tip-off. And we were talking about it in the office before, and I guess 3.5 or 4.5. I was trying to give respect to the really good basketball that St. Louis has been playing lately, but the metrics, the odds makers still feel like VCU is the team to beat in this conference, and they certainly showed it tonight. Joe Bamaseal, 23 points, 8 of 17 from the field. We had a good chuckle with Max Shulgren and Brandon Jennings in the post-game press conference when we asked them how long it takes for you to realize that Joe's feeling it on a given night and that you need to feed him. And they kind of laughed and nodded and said after the first couple go in. And it was obviously Joe Bamaseal's night. He had an awesome moment out on this sideline over here when he dove into the stands for a loose ball. And you said we got some spillage on the drink there.
Somebody's soda spilled backwards as Joe flew into them. Yeah, that. Dump the soda, save Joe. You got to know what's important here. We can get a new soda. We can't get a new Joe.
We need to know the name of that
open
fan.
Right now.
No, it's not. And they prioritized well, right? I think they let the soda go by the wayside in favor of saving Joe on the dive thing.
I'm not here to offer critique because were Joe to fall into, like, if I were holding up Joe, I would struggle. Like, I'm not, and they were struggling too. There's a lot of Joe, and you know, we're not all game shaped these days. Some of us, especially, we all came into January with big intentions, and then the water goes out, and all of a sudden you're eating Twix bars in the corner of the room, weeping softly.
As was the great joke, you got more alcohol in your apartment or your house than you do drinkable water.
It happens. It happens to the best of us. I don't think it wasn't like a highlight reel return of Joe to the court, but they gave it their all.
They did. I think they saved him from the worst of it too, because he might have gone flying into the seats there, and the fan was at least able to cushion the fall a little bit. And that was right at the beginning of that knockout run, right? I think it was 14-2. It ended up, and that was after Brandon Jennings hit his first three, and then shortly after that, you get what seems like the play of the game that stood out in my mind, at least when Jennings got the steal in the backcourt. And then hit his second three, which was just the third three of his VCU career. And this place, the roof came off. And I think in that moment, you could feel the pent-up excitement from it having been so long since fans were in here for a game. You could feel the fact that this is a bit of a sea change, right? At the top of the A10, VCU kind of assuming that mantle that we all thought that they'd have going into the year, and that they kind of lost in non-conference when you drop those couple of disappointing games in Charleston. But Rams 13-4. Right, 3-1 in A10 play. It's still all to play for this team. At large, hopes I think are still alive, although it's going to be tough because the A10 is really struggling right now. But man, you saw with how much they jumped in the net how a double-digit win on the road can help you out in the metrics when they won at Loyola the other week by 19 points. And so you've got opportunities coming up, right? You're at St. Joseph's on Friday. You're at Rhode Island on Tuesday. You host St. Bonaventure next Friday with a 9 p.m. game. I'm so excited, and Michael's over here. He's smirking and shaking his head at me, as everyone does.
Game.
But that's in my wheelhouse. I'm a night owl, if you don't know me, and so for a 9 p.m., I'm super excited for that, for the Friday 10 showcase. And then they're at St. Louis on the 28th after that. So I think it's still all to play for in front of this team. You're the front runners in the A10 now. You're very much the hunted as opposed to the hunter. And I think this team is going to embrace that, as it seems like they're shifting into playing their best basketball of the season. Box score, odds and ends for tonight. The offensive rebounding. Oh my goodness, 22-4. This team continues to be elite nationally over the last few games at creating second chance opportunities. 19-7 edge and second chance points. 38-16 points in the paint edge. And Chris Kowalczyk pointed something out to me that I hadn't noticed or thought about in the box score. VCU attempted 72 field goals tonight. They were 30 of 72 from the field. St. Louis attempted 37 field goals. They were 17 of 37 from the field. That's a wild disparity, and that's a product of the 19 turnovers for St. Louis and of the offensive rebounding and VCU getting extra possessions. Jack Clark, 12 points, 5 assists. As Michael said, he's starting to get into a rhythm, and I think has been pressing to a degree this season, right, because the outside shots haven't been falling. He played 34-07 tonight. I think that's a testament to him kind of building that trust with Odom. And specifically defensively, I thought he was really great on Avila, because that was a tough ask of Luke Bamboye and Christian Furman to be able to follow Avila out to the perimeter. And Jack did a wonderful job of that tonight. Shulga, 11 points, 9 assists, 4 steals. He's only 4 of 10 from the field, but man, he continues to impact the games in myriad ways this season. Ended up 21 over on the plus minus. That's a game high, even though he only scored 11 points. So a wonderful testament to how he was able to impact this game. And then, like we said, Brandon Jennings, obviously that sequence in the second half was huge, but 10 points, 6 rebounds, a couple steals. His defense was phenomenal on Jimerson, who again ended up 4 of 12 from the field. The A10's leading scorer could not get going. When you've got a freshman that you can put on the A10's leading scorer and he can have that sort of effect on him, I think it's a testament to the type of special defender that Brandon is and how he can impact games. Michael Bell only played 5:53, but he had some really good minutes too, 6 points in this one. And then Christian Furman, 4 of 7 from the field. It wasn't Luke Bamboye's night, right? He's obviously been really good lately for this team, but he didn't score. Had a block, only played 14-14. This was really Firm's night. He ended up with 8 points, 4 of 7 from the field. 3 rebounds, but the rebounding numbers, I think, for Clark and Bamboye are a little misleading because they had a lot of tap outs and a lot of deflections that led to some of those second chance opportunities. So I think that they deserve more plaudits than just the straight rebounding numbers would suggest. But man, VCU to 13-4, 3-1 in A10 play after a 78-62 win over St. Louis, in which they played their best basketball of the season, and they got a ton of momentum now heading into a trip to Philly and St. Joseph's on Friday. I will be there, so I'm excited for that. Gonna get some good Philly cheesesteaks. Michael, any final thoughts on this one? This was a fun atmosphere tonight.
Do you get with the Whiz or with
the Whiz.
Provolone? What's your game?
My sense is that usually the places have like a house way that they do it, right? Do they do both the Whiz and the Provolone, or is it an either or type deal?
The Whiz is the traditional. That's the Pat and Geno's.
Yeah.
Like that's the OG. I think people tell you now the Provolone is widely acknowledged as the better sandwich. There's also Stanley's down here, and the fan does like the white cheddar, the sharp cheddar.
I think that's Ryan Odom's favorite.
I think that's a very nice sandwich. He has a good taste.
I may have had a conversation with Ryan Odom and Ed McLaughlin on Saturday night at a cocktail lounge about what the best Philly cheesesteak in Richmond is, and I think Stanley's is their consensus. That's the place to go.
If they're smart, that is their consensus.
Okay. I have not been there yet, but need to try it out recently.
I take you to Stanley's. We'll
go to Stanley's. We'll get lunch at Stanley's soon. Yeah. Let's do it.
Deal.
Michael, thanks for coming on, guys. Thank you so much for following along. This was a fun one tonight. VCU's got a lot of momentum heading into Friday's game at St. Joseph's, so I'll be there and doing On the Horn. From Hawk Hill, thank you guys so much for following along. It was great to have fans back in this place tonight. We'll see you next time.